Hi, here in this video, let's know about The American Scholar by Ralph Waldo Emerson. The American Scholar was a speech given by Ralph Waldo Emerson on August 31, 1987. Three influences which to Emerson's mind chiefly make the scholar what he is. These are nature, books and action. Let's know the detailed analysis of
The American Scholar by Ralph Waldo Emerson. The American Scholar was a speech given by Ralph Waldo Emerson on August 31, 1837, to the Phi Beta Kappa Society of Harvard College at the First Parish in Cambridge, Massachusetts. He was invited to speak in recognition of his groundbreaking work Nature, published a year earlier, in which he established a new way for America's fledgling society to regard the world. 60 years after declaring independence, American culture was still heavily influenced by Europe. And Emerson, for possibly the first time in the country's history, provided a visionary philosophical framework for escaping from under its iron lids and building a new, distinctly American cultural identity. Summary. Emerson introduces transcendentalist and romantic views to explain an American scholar's relationship to nature. A few key points he makes include: we are all fragments, as the hand is divided into fingers, of a greater creature, which is mankind itself. An individual may live in either of two states. In one, the busy, divided or degenerate state, he does not possess himself but identifies with his occupation or a monotonous action. In the other, right state, he is elevated to man, at one with all mankind. To achieve this higher state of mind, the modern American scholar must reject old ideas and think for him or herself, to become man thinking rather than a mere thinker, or still worse, the parrot of other men's thinking, the victim of society, the sluggard intellect of this continent. The American scholar has an obligation, as man thinking, within this one-man concept, to see the world clearly, not severely influenced by traditional and historical views, and to broaden his understanding of the world from fresh eyes, to defer never to the popular cry. The scholar's education consists of three influences. 1. Nature, as the most important influence on the mind. 2. The past, manifest in books. 3. Action and its relation to experience. The last, unnumbered part of the text is devoted to Emerson's view on the duties of the American scholar who has become the man thinking. The scholar must needs stand wistful and admiring before this great spectacle. He must settle its value in his mind. Analysis. In 1837, Emerson delivers this speech at Harvard. He immediately draws attention to the absence of genuine academic or physical achievements to celebrate, which is intended to inflame the audience's interest. Emerson, on the other hand, praises them for their continued love of letters, the first indication that Emerson believes they will one day unite to celebrate some shared literary achievement. Emerson continues to chastise his audience's pride by referring to America's sluggard intellect. This incites his audience to prove him wrong, possibly by producing the type of literature he believes will help kickstart a new age in America. He also uses America's continued dependence to motivate his audience to listen to what he has to say in order to learn how to truly live. One of the most critical points Emerson wishes to convey is that all men and women are connected metaphysically, each contributing something to the greater good of society. Thus, the scholar who accomplishes something truly meaningful through literature not only earns respect for himself or herself, but also for and benefits the entire country. Emerson explains how society became so divided. Individuals gravitate toward those who perform similar roles in society. This implies that they withdraw from other groups, or social classes, and lose sight of what binds them together. Rather than that, he argues that individuals should be open to a range of skills and occupations in order to contribute to a more well-rounded, harmonious society in which everyone's contribution is valued. According to Emerson, a person who does not understand the true value of their role in society will never reach their full potential. Due to the fact that individual segments of society are not operating at their full potential, the entire society is not functioning as well as it could if it were more united. Emerson argues that all scholars should strive to embody the ideal of man thinking. They actively seek truth, develop their own ideas, and share them with other members of their society as man-thinking. Additionally, they understand that their actions benefit everyone because of the strong bonds that exist between all members of society. Not only are all men and women in society interconnected, but they also have a strong bond with nature. At the time Emerson delivered this speech, much of America's natural landscape remained unexplored, and thus was widely misunderstood. Emerson similarly believes that the true spirit of all Americans is largely unknown and misunderstood. A young mind can refer to a child's mind or to an inexperienced mind that is just beginning to think for itself. It emphasizes the obvious distinctions. However, Emerson believes that as humanity matures, it is through observation of nature's interconnectedness that people begin to delve beneath the surface and discover connections between seemingly unconnected things. Additionally, each of these things serves an individual purpose that benefits the whole, echoing Emerson's assertion that all members of a society contribute significantly to its functioning. Emerson believes that a scholar's mind will quickly make the connection between the individual and nature, and that studying nature will assist them in understanding themselves beginning in childhood. This is the point at which they begin to develop not only as a scholar, but also as a creator, capable of producing art and literature that reflects the discoveries they made about themselves and all of humanity while observing nature. This means that, in the context of Emerson's call for a distinctive body of American art and literature, studying nature and recognizing the world's underlying connections is critical for scholars to develop into competent writers and thinkers. Emerson believes that only great minds are capable of producing great and meaningful works of literature. Their ideas endure because they speak to universal truths that people at all levels of society can comprehend and relate to, emphasizing Emerson's emphasis on the importance of recognizing the common threads that connect all people. Books expose scholars to the ideas and thoughts that continue to shape the society in which they live, which can be extremely beneficial as they begin working on their own books that will contribute to America's literary canon. Each individual is a product of their time and is likely to harbor some of the same prejudices and quirks that are unique to their time and place of origin. As a result, Emerson acknowledges that not all books will be relevant in all eras or locations, despite his belief in universal connection. This demonstrates that, while Emerson believes in the unity of all people, he also values the individual highly. Each generation must create something new in order to perpetuate its own distinct ideas and beliefs. As Emerson is well aware, books have a tendency to exert undue influence over their readers. This can be especially dangerous for developing scholars who have been taught to accept the writings and beliefs of a small number of individuals. Rather than writing books for the next generation, those who rely too heavily on past minds suffocate their individuality, relegating themselves to writing about concepts that are no longer as relevant in the modern era as they were when they were first written. A scholar must learn to read books well if they wish to avoid becoming a satellite and blindly following an idea simply because it was created by a great mind in the past. They accomplish this by cultivating an active soul and teaching themselves to think critically and independently in order to innovate in the society in which they live. By doing so, the American scholar can contribute to the definition of the country's distinct identity through their work, rather than simply echoing a long-standing European tradition. It is critical for individual scholars to turn inward and attempt to discover their own unique perspectives on various subjects, and periods of solitude enable them to do so away from external influences that may make it more difficult to understand one's own mind. This demonstrates once again how Emerson values individual minds apart from their connections. Additionally, Emerson encourages scholars to engage with the ideas of other writers, as reading other people's work can assist a scholar who is having difficulty with their own work in developing a more coherent way to communicate their thoughts. Emerson emphasizes that the connection between individual men and women, and human beings and nature, is timeless, as evidenced by humanity's continued engagement with classic literature. Emerson believes that certain thoughts, feelings, and beliefs remain fundamentally unchanged over time, and that discovering them in long-forgotten books heightens a person's awareness of their connection to everyone else and, perhaps more importantly, their ability to influence future generations. Emerson has previously cautioned scholars against losing their unique perspectives as a result of excessive reliance on books, but now he emphasizes the additional importance of avoiding obsessing over trivial details or authorial biases. Rather than that, the scholar must use their judgment and feelings to determine which sections of a book are authentic and accurately reflect human experience. According to Emerson, these authentic passages should inspire scholars and assist them in further developing their own unique ideas. While Emerson warns against the dangers of formal education, namely that many students are not taught to think critically and independently, he reassures his audience that this type of education is necessary for factual information. A responsible college teaches students elements, facts, that provide them with the language and inspiration to create something new, rather than simply instructing them on how to think. While practical men are concerned with tangible results, speculative men are concerned with abstract concepts that cannot be touched and are not always immediately useful. Emerson, on the other hand, advises his audience of speculative men to work alongside practical men in order to better observe and understand them. Emerson believes that all human beings share profound connections, but the way to discover these connections is to step outside the scholar's comfort zone and engage in practical work, like farming or engineering. This not only provides new experiences for the scholar to consider, but also helps them better understand the needs and perspectives of their fellow American men and women. Emerson believes that a scholar who spends their entire life in a library studying old books and writing about them will lack the emotional intelligence that a person who has lived will possess. This relates to Emerson's earlier observation about meek young men who confine themselves to the confines of a college library. By reading only the works of others, a scholar runs the risk of losing their uniqueness to the ideas of previous thinkers. When a scholar ventures out into the world and becomes involved in society, they expose themselves to new and unique experiences that provide ample opportunity for making observations that result in new ideas that may inspire their next work. Emerson believes that in order for a scholar to be successful, they must understand that they cannot remain objective during an experience. To the scholar, objectivity entails an honest examination of their experiences and the thoughts they inspire, without allowing emotion to obliterate the truth. Time enables a person to look back with far greater objectivity than they do in the moment, providing them with the benefit of hindsight and possibly a better understanding of themselves and the meaning of these experiences. To the scholar, merchantable stock refers to emotions, experiences, and the thoughts they inspire. They are unique to the scholar, but will contain universal truths for readers from all walks of life. To find meaning in an experience, however, the scholar must be receptive to it and not allow preconceived notions or biases to limit their receptivity to the new perspectives and ideas they will inevitably encounter. One of the scholar's goals is to reach as many people as possible, which is why it is critical for them to be able to write in a language that is easily understood by people of all social classes and regions. As Emerson correctly observes, language has a way of rising from the bottom, and slang from the field and the workyard frequently becomes so popular in a variety of social classes and environments that it eventually finds its way into respectable academic books found in college libraries. Thus, going out and learning the language used in contemporary field S and workyard S helps the scholar connect with both their immediate audience and future college students who will encounter this language in their classrooms. While the scholar's job is to observe and write about human experience, as Emerson previously stated, they begin by studying nature, because the laws of nature reflect the laws of the human mind and spirit. According to Emerson, the scholar's mind is naturally drawn to observations of human behavior, which they can only truly make by participating actively in society. However, while reading and writing, the scholar becomes isolated from activity, and Emerson encourages them to return to action when their isolation becomes a hindrance to their work. The life of a successful scholar is analogous to the ebb and flow of the sea in this regard. Emerson believed that the scholar should withdraw into themselves while working and then return to society and communal action on a regular basis in search of more merchantable stock. By concentrating on the scholar's intellectual development as an individual, the scholar can connect more effectively with. According to Emerson, the less an individual is constrained by social etiquette, the more natural their thoughts and behaviors will be. By engaging in primitive work such as farming, the scholar can reconnect with their own unhandled savage nature. As it entails working directly with nature without regard for social conventions. Thus, it enables the scholar, and those with whom the scholar may collaborate, to act and think more naturally. Emerson emphasizes once again that a large portion of society prefers the practical man whose career produces tangible results that can be used for oneself over the speculative man who deals with intangible ideas and emotions. Emerson also cautions that, due to the scholar's possible unpopularity in large segments of society, they may never achieve fame or even recognition during their lifetime. According to Emerson's concept of social unity, not only does an individual's work benefit the entire society, but an individual's abilities reflect the abilities of all. As a result, the scholar's accomplishments and abilities are representative of everything that humanity is capable of. Additionally, the scholar's intellectual labors will pave the way for future scholars. As Emerson previously stated, books are written for the benefit of the next generation. Emerson's previous warnings about the isolation that scholars frequently face as a result of a lack of interest in the popular arts. However, this isolation enables the scholar to maintain thought independence, which enables them to see something truly, such as the underlying truths about humanity that the popular arts or current social movements reflect. Thus, Emerson does not believe that individual thought and human unity are mutually exclusive. Spontaneous thoughts reflect an individual's true nature, and thus, in accordance with Emerson's belief in the interconnectedness of humanity, these are the thoughts that other men and women will most easily relate to and understand, as they speak to the inner natures of all men and women. This reaffirms Emerson's earlier observation that many of the best ideas and cultures emerge from savage nature rather than from a narrow focus on the thoughts and works of others. Emerson asserts that the scholar must be able to see beyond the superficial and ephemeral. Both in society, its pretension, and within themselves, fear. However, beneath each of these facets is an opportunity for the scholar to further their understanding of the human mind. Additionally, it is a scholar's responsibility to not only confront and see past these obstacles on their own, but to assist others in doing so as well. Emerson's criticisms here are similar to his previous argument that each generation should write for the next, implying that something is always passed down but also built upon. A successful scholar will have contributed to society's understanding that the world was never complete, and thus the scholar's work was never, and will never be, insignificant. This echoes Emerson's earlier assertion that humanity has become too divided, which it, unfortunately, has caused. Individual men and women have convinced themselves that they have a specific role in society and are compelled to fulfill that role. They have grown accustomed to living in their heroes because they believe that is all they are capable of. Emerson believes that the scholar can assist their audience in realizing that everyone, regardless of their position in the prevailing social hierarchy, is capable of greatness. The domestication of culture implies that art and literature will increasingly focus on domestic issues, which are more relatable and capable of conveying truth than improbable romances or lofty poetry written in a language only the most educated can comprehend. Money and power, Emerson argues, are secondary to the capacity to understand one another. Through comprehension, the scholar can accomplish something far more beneficial and lasting, uniting a divided society. The old ideas found in the books that scholars typically read no longer inspire as much because they have been overused. They must be built upon, adapted, and even refuted by successive generations to ensure that the cycle of learning, understanding, and creation continues. Emerson is implying that only scholars capable of critical thought and intellectual independence will be able to sustain the central fire from generation to generation. According to Emerson, humanity's primitive explorations of human thought and emotion in classical literature gave way to Romantic literature's understanding of humanity's oneness with nature, which, Emerson argues, gave way to the introspection of the current reflective age. Individuals' understanding of human nature follows a similar pattern, beginning in childhood, classic, and concluding in adulthood, modern, reflective. This demonstrates the cyclical nature of knowledge on both a societal and individual level, and reaffirms Emerson's emphasis on wisdom transmission. Emerson is reiterating his belief in the inevitability of an artistic revolution in America. Following the Revolutionary War, American society succeeded in establishing a functional government and even made significant contributions to the global understanding of science and the natural world. However, Americans lacked a literary voice capable of defining what it meant to be American and guiding American society forward. America was founded on the principle that all men and women are created equal and that none are inherently superior. Literature that focuses exclusively on the few who enjoy enormous wealth and privilege does not accurately reflect the human experience due to its exclusion of so much humanity. Emerson praises literature that appeals to the near, the low, and the common because it speaks the most truth to the greatest number of people and thus helps unite the nation more than literature about the remote rich. Emerson also emphasizes the importance of literature that depicts near rather than far things, as it has a greater capacity to unite. The genius of the writers Emerson mentions is that they famously used language understood by the middle and lower classes rather than by the educated upper classes. They created poetry and books that were more approachable and understandable to all members of society, and by following their lead, American scholars could create literature that would help unite their American audience. Swedenborg, like Emerson, believed in a genuine connection between humans, nature, and the divine. Due to this oneness, studying natural sciences could aid humanity in comprehending itself and promoting spiritual growth. Emerson acknowledges earlier in the speech that people work for power or money in order to advance up the social ladder. While the desire for material comforts and the respect that comes with power are natural, Emerson believes the American scholar will help society recognize that working for the advancement of society is more important than working for the world, i.e. reputation, money, or social standing. Emerson returns to several of the sentiments he expressed in the speech's opening paragraphs. By paying too much attention to Europe's courtly muses, the American scholar had contributed to America's failure to achieve true cultural independence. America had accomplished much by achieving political independence from England, but without cultural independence, the country would never earn the respect of other world powers. Emerson believes that American society has prioritized industrialization and innovation at the expense of intellectual development. This echoes Emerson's earlier observation that the world's practical people look down on the speculative for ostensibly not contributing to society. America's mind is essentially atrophying as a result of complacency and an unwillingness to challenge itself to aim higher and create something new and unique. However, if one scholar achieves a breakthrough, others will undoubtedly follow. Emerson believed that as a young country, America had the potential to become the first truly united nation. The European countries from which so many Americans emigrated were marked by deep and insurmountable social divisions, owing primarily to their adherence to concepts of nobility and primogeniture, which barred members of the lower classes from ascending to the upper. Emerson believes that America will achieve greatness not through scientific discovery or new inventions, but through literature and art. The American scholar will reconcile social divisions by demonstrating that no human being is inherently superior to another simply because they were born into a noble family, but that all human beings are equal because they share a divine soul. End of the analysis. Thank you. Thank you.